thank you guys so much for such a beautiful film. Honestly, I think like it was very, very meaningful. Um, I had a few questions. One of my first ones came like at the very end, the choice of song. Um, it's a song that like I've heard my dad singing, I've heard my teta sing it before, and I was wondering if you guys wanted to maybe elaborate a little bit on like the meaning of that song specifically in the context of the film and maybe like how you came to choose it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we originally had a different song as part of the credit scene, and then this song was actually a song that was very close to the heart of our sound designer, Danielle. And he is friends with the artist who's doing this rendition of that traditional folk song. And so he kind of, as a surprise, edited that into one of the drafts of the sound design, and we all really like fell in love with it and really felt like it was the closing song that we had been looking for that really like matched the emotion and the just like the heartfelt passion for this home place. Yeah, and so we're really grateful to Danielle for bringing that song. And actually, this the recording of it was done like in a non-professional setting. She kind of just released this song. And yeah, we were playing around with having her re-record it, but we felt like the this recording was just like very raw and beautiful, and that's the one we ended up keeping. But it's so beautiful to hear that you had family members sing it.
Yeah, I was listening to it like the first time I watched the film was in my living room and my dad's in a different room in the house started singing along. So I was like,
Oh,
oh. I also feel
beautiful.
like, music in general is so important. Same with storytelling. And I had another question, but it's very open-ended. I felt a lot recently like storytelling has kind of fallen off of the kind of priority and out of people's minds when it comes to activism right now with everything going on. And as artists, I was wondering how you guys are using your skills and your personal calling to this kind of advocacy right now, today, with what we're seeing happening in Gaza and also just, globally.
I, I think I try to bring in activism in art whenever I make anything, whether it has to do with Palestine, Palestine or not. I think stories are an incredible, incredible way to change perspective, to have nuanced representation, and I think at this very moment, it creates a lot of dialogue. And if you tell it in a way that is digestible, and if you tell it in a way that is thoughtful, I think people are more open to speaking with each other, and I think that's really important, especially when trying to activate for Palestine and having it be so fraught and emotional all the time. And so at this moment, I think, doing what we can, or I'll speak for myself, doing what I can, whether it's, making narrative short films and putting Arabs at the forefront of that, or continuing to promote this documentary and doing Q&As like this. And so thank you for the opportunity to be able to even, speak and do something like this and speak to the wonderful people in the audience. So, yeah.
Awesome. I feel like, yeah, so many of us, we have like our own stories and we don't always know like when the right time is to share it. I know like recently it's been very difficult to know like when we should be amplifying other voices, when we should share our own experiences kind of to relate. Um and then I guess like my last question was more surrounding the films, like the specific choices. I realized that like there was not a lot of political context offered. And I know you said that like it's very important to make things like digestible and like safe for people to watch so that there can be conversations. I feel like there is still some controversy about like not saying things straight up the way they are, and like watching it and seeing, just the vague statements about, the Second Intifada and there was Israeli troops in the West Bank and Gaza, what was going on. Is there a reason why there was like these vague statements as opposed to like very directly addressing it? And yeah, if you guys wanted to offer context as well, maybe if you have some on the circumstances that were leading up to the Intifada.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we worked on this film for so many years. I think Yusuf and I started working on it back in 2017 when we met in grad school. So the film has been through many, many iterations. And as you can imagine, there have been so many like upwellings of violence in Palestine over that course of time. And it's been really interesting to like feel uh like sometimes this urgency of getting this story out before we felt like it was fully finished. And it kind of just happened this way that this film was finally finished when it was, and it feels like the most meaningful time for it to um make its way out into the world. And I think we did get a lot of feedback from folks who wanted, you know, more of like a historical deep dive, wanted more news footage giving context. But I think ultimately we felt like the power of this film was through the intimacy that it holds. Um, we had played with including present day interviews at one point, but ultimately Yusuf decided, and our editor, Mekdot, felt like we need to keep this as raw and honest as possible by only using the archival footage, um, which is a challenge to ask folks to watch an hour, a little bit over an hour of some of a stranger's home video, you know? But kind of back to your previous question about storytelling, like for me, the power of storytelling is the connection that it's able to make across difference, the emotion and the like empathy that it creates by watching a family that's similar to your own. And so I don't think we were trying to not make this film political. Like its existence and its um, context of being in Palestine is inherently political. But we didn't want to bring in any forced external commentary that wasn't present in the footage that was happening. And the um, I do think that the words that Yusuf chose in his narration are very poetically political. Um, and yeah, I guess, yeah, haven't read the text on the cards as we chose it to be intentionally vague. I think we just wanted to be like as direct and sparse with the framing as we could so that the footage itself and the story could speak for itself.
You know, as a Palestinian woman, a lot of like what is out there is told from a Western lens and a Western perspective. And so, what we really wanted to do, or what I was really excited by, was being able to tell the story from the people who experienced it. And I think it was really, I thought it was beautiful that Yusuf wanted to kind of keep it in that vein of, you know, this is, like Marielle said, very intimate, very emotional, a story by Palestinians for Palestinians and for the Western world to kind of know what it's like to be Palestinian. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that. Honestly, I think that it's very true. Like, the more political context is added, the further you kind of put yourself from the text. At least, like, I know I've been doing that a lot recently. Um, but I also really like the way like it opens it up at the end to the new generation, and like it's kind of a beginning of a new story. So that I don't know, it gives a lot of hope, especially right now, which is needed.
Yusuf still lives in Ramallah in the West Bank, and is just like hard at work doing really incredible work there. he's not working in filmmaking besides this film right now, but he does definitely have more stories to tell. And Dima was in Palestine for a while, I believe 2 years, and then was offered a job teaching at the Royal College of Art in London. And so that's where she is right now. She's a really incredible architect and artist, and encourage people to look up her work. Yeah, she's doing incredible things. A lot of her work is connected to her relationship with her homeland. And Saha and Ramsey are also doing well and living in Cairo right now.
I think, we're all in touch. Full disclosure, I am Yusuf and Dima's cousin, so,
Yeah.
they are my family. Everyone is in touch and they're all okay. I think everyone is just trying to figure out how best to support and explore resistance and, do their part. I think I can't speak for Dima and Yusuf and how they're processing, but what I see from the outside, at least, is throwing themselves into meaningful work. You know, they are lucky in this moment to be able to be alive and be proactive and have resistance. And I see a lot of meaningful work coming from both of them in art, in film, in tech, in business, just trying to make a difference and advocating for Palestine. I think that's all any of us can do. I don't know, Marielle, if you have anything to add there.
No, I think I feel equally as at a loss for what will happen to all the families and the children that are experiencing this right now. But I think what I've witnessed through making this film with Zein and Yusuf is that art and storytelling can be a conduit for like healing or integrating trauma. And that's not to like kind of be cliche and say that art can heal anything, especially just the most horrible things that we're seeing. But I do find hope in the art that I'm seeing coming from Palestinian artists. And there are so many beautiful films out right now by Palestinian filmmakers who are, yeah, grappling with different parts of their story. Yeah.
Something that my family always has like really been reminding me of, especially recently, but I think my whole life, like those who have lived like incredible trauma. I can't compare anything to what's happening in Gaza right now, but is always just keeping yourself community centered. And as long as we can keep a strong community in the diaspora and in Palestine, Gaza, wherever it is that it's needed, I think that people are ultimately so much stronger than we give them credit for. Like with time, with the opportunity to express themselves, people are so resilient. And I think that like what's happening right now, inshallah, it doesn't go on for much longer. We had the kind of, I don't want to say good news, but we had the news of a possible temporary ceasefire today, and hopefully that extends into something permanent. I think that these kids are paving the way to brighter futures for so many coming generations. And that in and of itself is like an incredible privilege for everyone who has survived and everyone who is like currently surviving the diaspora as well. So just try to stay hopeful about it.
Yusuf first found these videos from these 2 years when he went home on winter break, his first year of grad school. And I think Saha and Ramzi were always big home video makers. Like there are just years and years of like really well organized videos that are all digitized. But I to my knowledge, Dima and Yusuf had never seen any video from these 2 years, I think for obvious reasons. It's not a time that they really talked about very much as a family. So yeah, when Yusuf first discovered them, his dad basically let it slip during dinner one night that when they were talking about some memories from the time, that there were videos that Saha had filmed. And so it was incredibly emotional, the experience of first watching these home videos, and also really validating to a lot of the memories that Yusuf had, but wasn't sure if he, if they were accurate or if he had like created them. We played around a lot with like, we filmed these present day interviews with Saha at her parents' house in Beit Jala. We did a cut that had those interspersed, but kind of the feeling was like, we want to stay in this world with the family and not be pulled out into like this kind of modern reality on a high definition camera, and then there was also this like yearning from everyone who watched early cuts for more of Yusuf's voice in the film. And I think initially that was something he sort of was resistant to, because he was so devoted to like making this film about his mom. But then like we kind of collectively as a team realized that this was such a beautiful conversation actually between a mother and son, and around this question of like, why didn't we leave? Like, why did we stay? Why were you filming? And also like a way of honoring Yusuf's experience living through that as a child also. So yeah, eventually his voiceover didn't get added until like the last couple months of the process, which was like a 6 years long process. So yeah. Thank you so much. And just to like echo that we also encountered this challenge when we were doing archival research for this film. And yeah, found some of those Israeli academic articles that were able to like highlight so much of what is being kind of, yeah, held as classified, and yeah, and talked to a number of bureaus, Al Jazeera bureaus who had archives in Gaza that likely have been destroyed. So I just thank you for highlighting the importance of the personal archive and personal archiving as a form of resistance. That's something that we're really, that is a really big theme of this project and is part of what we're hoping to shape in an impact campaign where we're, yeah, hoping to provide more access to this personal archive and open up the option for others to share their personal archives as well.